They called him a worthless freeloader, the loser his ex-wife, Jade Cheen, had thrown out like trash. His new Ice Queen wife, Stella Sue, barely tolerated his presence. At a lavish party designed to be his new family's ultimate humiliation, the city's elite gathered to witness their downfall. This party is doomed to fail, his rivals sneered, as Jade watched with cold satisfaction. But then, Ian made a single phone call. One by one, the city's most untouchable figures began to arrive. Tycoons, patriarchs, and the legendary kingpin who hadn't been seen in years. They didn't come for the powerful Sue family. They came for him. As his ex-wife's face turned to ash, and his enemies stared in disbelief, Ian met their stunned silence with a lazy grin. I'm afraid you're going to be very disappointed. They thought they were shaming a powerless fool. They were about to discover they had provoked a hidden dragon, and his world-shaking miracle pills were just the beginning of their nightmare. Ian's lazy voice broke the post-crisis silence in the office. Stella shot him a look filled with suspicion. First, tell me this. Why did President Ming listen to you and drop his equity share to 1%? I told you, I sold him on a big dream. The #1 pharmaceutical group in the southern region. He thought it was a good deal, so he agreed, Ian said with a perfectly straight face. Be serious. Stella rolled her eyes in frustration. Do you really think a man as sharp as Mason Ming would fall for that nonsense? So, do you not trust me, or do you not trust yourself to take the company to that level? Ian countered. His question caught her off guard. She gritted her teeth, wanting to punch him. Are you insane? The top pharmaceutical group in the region is worth trillions. Do you think that's even possible? Trillions? At the mention of the word, Ian's eyes lit up. He could almost see the astronomical sum of milk money waving at him, and he let out an involuntary, greedy chuckle. To Stella, the sound was utterly terrifying. If you really could pull that off, I'd actually marry you for real, she said, half joking, half exasperated. No thanks. Ian's refusal was instant and absolute. Stella's smile froze on her face. Her, Stella Sue, the Ice Queen of Xinjiang, was an undesirable bride. The thought sparked a competitive fire in her she hadn't felt before. Then what reward do you want? She asked, lifting her chin defiantly. I don't want much, Ian said, counting on his fingers. I saved you 14% of the company's shares. Asking for 9% in return isn't too much, is it? Stella burst out laughing at his audacity. Fine. Tell me, how are you going to help me build this company? With the Dragon's Vigor pill. I'll give you the formula. I guarantee it'll make a fortune. Stop. Stella had heard enough about his ridiculous miracle drug. She settled back into her chair, all business again. You were a huge help this time. I'll give you a personal bonus of 50,000, included with your salary next month. Another empty promise. Ian's enthusiasm deflated instantly. Ignoring him, Stella began delegating tasks, telling Zheng Li to reinstate the former security chief, Ron Lo. Just then, Ian spoke up. CEO Sue, I'd like to recommend someone for deputy chief. Mr. Gua. He was very responsible today. He's a good man. Seeing his rare seriousness, and with Zheng Li's confirmation, Stella agreed. A small smile touched Ian's lips as he stretched and left the office. He wandered through the company, ignoring the whispers of jealousy and confusion from the employees. But as he passed one office, a conversation made him stop. You're the general manager of the group. Can't you handle such a small thing? A woman whined. Don't worry, a man's voice replied. It was Simon Sue. All 500 million is going to the pharmaceutical company. They need a new vice president. I'll recommend you. Really? I've helped you so much. How will you repay me? Naughty girl. Tonight at the hotel. Haven't I always worked hard? A cold smirk formed on Ian's face. Simon was trying to install his mistress in the pharmaceutical company? That was the future source of his milk money. He wouldn't let some parasite get in. He went to the security office, where Mr. Guo was overjoyed to see him. Learning that he had been vindicated and promoted to deputy chief left the older man speechless with gratitude. That evening, the security team wanted to take Ian out for celebratory drinks. But Mr. Guo hesitated, saying he had to get home to his sick wife and young child. That's when Ian learned that Guo's wife had severe pulmonary fibrosis, and multiple hospitals had given up on her. An idea sparked in his mind. Why don't you let me take a look? Maybe I can treat her. Amidst the disbelieving stares of Guo and his colleagues, Ian spun a tale about being the apprentice of a wandering folk healer. He genuinely liked the honest, loyal man and wanted to help. After some convincing, and a quick call to Stella to say he'd be late, a skeptical but desperate Mr. Guo led Ian to his home. It was a dilapidated old tenement building, the walls covered in moss and cracks, the air thick with the smell of dampness and cooking fumes. Ian was shocked that such poverty existed in the heart of the bustling city. As they reached the 5th floor, a woman's shrill voice pierced through the thin walls. Florisham, I'm telling you, this is your own brother. He's 100,000 short for a car. As his sister, you won't give him a dime? Do you want him to be single forever? Mr. Guo's face changed, and he rushed forward. Ian followed, seeing a small, stuffy room, where a frail, pale woman sat weakly pleading. Mom, you know our situation. My husband is the only one working, and my medical bills are so high every month. We really don't have the money. Then what good is he? A grown man who can't even support his wife and child. What a waste, a gaudily dressed older woman cursed, ignoring her own daughter's fragile state. Mr. Guo rushed in, trying to control his anger. Mom, we really don't have any money. Over the years, Wesley has already borrowed over 100,000 from us. Oh, bringing up old debts now, the woman sneered. If you were so poor, you shouldn't have tricked my daughter into marrying you. Other girls get a huge bride price. And you? You live in this pigsty. Guo hung his head in shame. Over the past year, I've only saved about 30,000. I was hoping to take Flora to the provincial capital for treatment. 30,000. The woman and her delinquent-looking son, Wesley, both lit up with greed. What's the point of treatment? Your illness is a waste of money. Give it to your brother for his car. The woman actually reached out to snatch it. Mom, Flora, agitated by her mother's cruelty, shot to her feet, but immediately clutched her throat, making a horrible gasping sound. Her face turned from pale to blue, her eyes rolled back, and she collapsed. Are you trying to kill her? Mr. Guo cried out, catching his wife, his voice choked with despair. The mother, shocked, grabbed her son and tried to flee. In that critical moment, Ian stepped into the room, his voice calm and powerful. Mr. Guo, help her sit up straight. Before the words were even out, he had produced a golden needle from his pouch. Under the dim light, its tip glinted menacingly. His eyes focused, and he plunged the needle through her clothing, directly into the Dingchuan acupoint on her back. The moment the needle went in, a miracle occurred. The thin golden needle seemed to possess a life of its own. Flora Sheng, who had been gasping for air on the verge of suffocation, began to breathe more easily. Mr. Guo's eyes widened in disbelief. Ian's expression remained unchanged as he skillfully produced 2 more golden needles, precisely inserting them into the Feng Min and Feishu points on her back. With these, her breathing became even stronger. Finally, Ian inserted 4 more needles in quick succession, then swept his hand over their ends. All 7 needles began to hum faintly, an ethereal golden light flowing along their shafts like tiny dragons. Hold that position for 15 minutes, Ian said, his voice calm and steady. Flora could clearly feel waves of heat flowing from her back, gently enveloping her weakened lungs. The long-forgotten sensation of being able to breathe freely filled her with shock and wonder. She hadn't felt this good since she first fell ill. Your condition isn't as dire as you think, Ian said, noticing her confusion. With consistent treatment, you can recover quickly. Flora just smiled sadly, the grim prognosis of specialists deeply ingrained in her mind. But Mr. Guo now looked at Ian with absolute faith. Flora, this is Mr. Pai, CEO Sue's husband. If he says he can cure you, he can. Mr. Pai. Flora repeated the name thoughtfully. That's a rare surname in Xinjiang. I remember the old folks in my village saying there used to be a Pai family there. Ian's heart jolted. Where is your village? North of the city. Whitewater Town. That family. Are they still there? A note of tension crept into Ian's voice. Flora shook her head sadly. More than a decade ago, their house caught fire. They said the whole family of 9 died. But some people say they only found 8 bodies. A child was missing. Ian felt as if an invisible hand had clamped around his heart. He instinctively pulled out the jade pendant from under his shirt and showed it to her. Do you recognize this? Flora just shook her head. Ian put the pendant away, but the name, Whitewater Town, was now burned into his mind. After 15 minutes, Ian removed the needles and gently massaged the Feishu point on her back, sending a warm current of energy into her body. In moments, color returned to her pale cheeks. Mr. Guo was overcome with emotion and insisted on giving Ian their life savings of 30,000 as payment. But Ian gently refused. After leaving, Ian's mind was in turmoil. He drove straight to Rohan Mountain. At the summit, he sat cross-legged, looking north toward Whitewater Town. The past flooded his mind, and he couldn't enter a meditative state. He clenched the jade pendant in his hand, and a cool sensation spread through him, miraculously calming his inner turmoil. He closed his eyes. A faint blue light pulsed from the pendant, and the invisible ambient energy of the mountain was drawn to him, pouring through the jade and refining into pure power that suffused his entire body. For hours later, when he opened his eyes, 2 beams of light shot out. He had broken through to the 4th level of his cultivation. That night, Ian joined Ron Lo, Mr. Guo, and the other security guards for drinks at a casual riverside eatery. He showed no airs of a high society figure, easily fitting in with the boisterous group. It was during their conversation that he learned a crucial piece of information. Before her illness, Flora Sheng had been the deputy director of R&D for the Su Group, a widely recognized technical genius with a brilliant future. The next day, after dropping Stella at the office, Ian was about to head down to security. When Simon Su burst in, he lit a cigarette, propped his feet up, and blew a cloud of smoke toward Stella. Have you made any personnel decisions for the pharmaceutical company? President Meng's funds will arrive in 3 days. We need to appoint a vice president immediately. Stella frowned, considering her options. When Ian suddenly let out a derisive snort, Simon glared at him. What are you laughing at? This has nothing to do with you. Get out. Uncle, Stella said coldly, he is my husband. He has every right to be here. Ian spoke up lazily. General Manager Sue, you already have someone in mind, don't you? Let me guess. A certain Sandra Sue? Simon's face turned an ugly shade of red, as if he'd been stripped naked in public. Nonsense. Stella, however, was sharp enough to understand immediately. Her face hardened. Uncle, Sandra Sue only has a high school diploma. She can barely manage the logistics department. You want her to oversee new drug development? Are you joking? I am the general manager of this group. Can't I even recommend one person? Realizing his plot was exposed, Simon resorted to bullying. If you don't agree to her, then who do you think is better? Stella was at a loss. She didn't have a perfect candidate in mind. Just then, Ian spoke again, his voice clear and firm. Honey, I have a candidate who is perfect. Mr. Was wife, Flora Shung. She used to be the star of your R&D department. You know her capabilities better than I do. Stella's eyes lit up. It was indeed the perfect choice. But Simon laughed as if he'd heard the world's greatest joke. Flora Shung? She's so sick she needs an oxygen tank just to breathe. How is she supposed to come to work? Ian just smiled, puffed out his chest, and met Simon's hateful glare. You seem to have forgotten that I'm a miracle doctor. Her little illness is nothing. Give me 5 days, and I'll have her back at work, healthier than ever. As Simon Sue's angry footsteps faded down the hall, the tension in the office finally dissipated. Stella's brow relaxed, and she turned to Ian, her voice uncertain. What you just said, is it true? 5 days. Really? Of course, Ian replied with a shrug. When have you ever known me to lie? Good, Stella sighed, a genuine smile gracing her lips. If Flora Shung can come back, it solves a huge problem for me. So, is there a reward? Ian immediately sidled up to her, his eyes gleaming with the hope of more milk money. Any gratitude Stella had felt was instantly washed away. She shot him an annoyed look. Do we really have to keep score like this? I need to save up for milk money, was his unassailable reason. Suddenly, Stella let out a laugh, a sly look in her eyes. She subconsciously straightened up, pushing out her impressive chest. You don't need to, she said softly. I guarantee the baby won't go hungry. The view was so spectacular that Ian's Adam's apple bobbed uncontrollably. He swallowed hard. With that kind of capacity, she could feed twins. But he still muttered, what are you talking about? That little bit wouldn't even be an appetizer for me. How could that possibly cover a debt of over 100 billion? However, his words were like a lit match to a powder keg. Stella's face frosted over, the murderous look in her eyes almost tangible. Pervert. Get out. Ian shrugged helplessly, took one last look at the magnificent curves, and walked out, shaking his head. He could never make this woman understand the pressure a man under $100 billion debt was facing. With nowhere else to go, Ian wandered down to the security office. Shooting the breeze with these straightforward men was the most relaxing part of his day. As he was chatting with 2 new guards, all 3 of them suddenly fell silent, their gazes fixed on the entrance. A fiery red convertible BMW pulled up. The door opened, and a long, slender leg in black stockings emerged, followed by a woman who seemed to raise the temperature of the air around her. She was walking, talking temptation. Her tight dress accentuated her extreme curves, and every step she took seemed to land on a man's heartbeat. She exuded not the hidden fire of an ice queen like Stella, but an overt, soul-stealing allure. The woman swayed over to the security office, leaned down, and flashed a bewitching smile at the 3 stunned men. Hi, handsome. Is CEO Stella Sue in? Her voice was soft and intoxicating. As she bent over, the view was breathtaking. Ian felt his mouth go dry and, on impulse, asked, Aren't you afraid of tripping? The woman giggled, and as she stood up, her seductive, fox-like eyes gave Ian a lingering glance before she turned and walked into the building, leaving behind a heady trail of perfume. Near noon, just as Ian was wondering where to get lunch, he saw Stella and Zheng Li walking out with the glamorous woman. Ian, drive us to the Harborview Grill, Stella said, a subtle note of command in her voice. In the car, Ian learned that the woman, Ruby Zhu, was Stella's best friend. However, this wealthy socialite soon confessed her secret pain. Her handsome, successful husband was all show and no go. Theirs was a sexless, torturous marriage. The doctors you saw must have been quacks, Ian interjected during Ruby's desperate sobs. Such a simple problem, and they couldn't do anything? What do you mean? Ruby asked, her eyes tear-filled. The amateurs are on the stage, the masters are in the streets, Ian said mysteriously. You look far and wide, but the answer is right in front of you. In a private room at the restaurant, Ruby pressed him for an answer. Ian grinned and pulled out a small porcelain bottle, tipping 3 black pills into his palm. The Dragon's Vigor pill. Give him one tonight, and you'll see if he can be saved. In fact, you might be the one crying for help. Stella was about to object, but Ian looked at Ruby's face and said slowly, Your skin is dull, with faint dark spots. This is because your husband's function is lost, and your own needs aren't being met, leading to a long-term hormonal imbalance. A truly skilled traditional doctor can diagnose the husband's illness by observing the wife. This impossibly accurate diagnosis shattered Ruby's last doubts. She clutched the bottle like a priceless treasure, hope reignited in her eyes. After the meal, Ruby sped off in her BMW, saying she was going to pick up her husband and get him home early. Ian watched the red car disappear, a knowing smile on his face. Suddenly, he let out a yelp. A slender hand had viciously twisted the soft flesh at his waist. Is she beautiful? Stella's icy voice was right next to his ear. Your soul was practically stolen, wasn't it? Ow. Let go. That's the engine room. Are you trying to turn me into your friend's husband? Ian yelped in pain. Stella's face flushed. She finally let go, turned, and walked away. Ian stood there, rubbing his side and counting on his fingers. 11 more months, he muttered to himself. This is pure torture. Inside the Chin family villa, the air was thick with tension. Jade Chin's brow was furrowed in worry, her fingers tapping in irritable rhythm on the table. Losing the soaring dragon investment weighed on her like a physical stone, making it hard to breathe. Her plan had been to use that capital to open the door to the legendary Hu family, a centuries-old dynasty of physicians, and acquire their famed 12 golden formulas to launch the Chin group into the stratosphere. Now, that dream was dust. The $80 million deposit the Hu family required was an insurmountable obstacle. To make matters worse, her uncle, Jonah Chin, was circling like a shark, waiting for the right moment to oust her as CEO. Sis, you can ask Brandon for help, her brother Kevin piped up from behind his game console. Their mother, Jenna Yen, excitedly grabbed her phone, ready to call Brandon Hua, as if the investment was just a phone call away. Jade irritably pushed her mother's hand down. Mom, don't make things worse. I have no intention of marrying him. Just as she was about to give up hope, her phone rang. It was the son of the Hu family, Leon Hu. A magnetic voice on the other end invited her to a meeting that evening at the Xiaoyao Pavilion. Jade's heart leaped. It was a last-ditch hope, but it was hope nonetheless. The next day, in the CEO's office at the Su Group, Stella was buried in paperwork when the door was knocked, and a fiery red figure breezed in. Darling, you work way too hard. Ruby Zhu's voice was overflowing with a joy that was almost tangible. Stella looked up and was immediately captivated by her friend's appearance. She was still beautiful, but today she seemed to glow, as if bathed in the light of a ripe peach. Even the playful glint in her eyes seemed more pronounced. But, what's wrong with your leg? Why are you walking like that? Stella asked, intrigued. Ruby's gait was a peculiar mix of exhaustion and satisfaction, making her look like a cat that had just finished a feast. Ruby giggled, a sound full of triumphant pride. Don't play dumb. Your man is so amazing. I refuse to believe you haven't walked just like me. Her words left Stella completely confused. Finally, unable to contain her ecstasy any longer, Ruby spilled the details of the previous night's battle. I gave Ethan the dragon's vigor pill your man gave me, and then, he went at it all night. He's still in bed. Stella's cheeks burned. Ruby had no filter, but the shock was far more powerful than the embarrassment. She noticed that the faint dark spots on Ruby's face had indeed faded. Could it be that the dragon's vigor pill that Ian had been hyping up was actually a miracle drug? Stella, I'm telling you, you've hit the jackpot with this man, Ruby said, her expression suddenly serious. As soon as your company develops this pill, it's going to be huge. It's a goldmine. If another company gets their hands on this formula, you'll be kicking yourself. Ruby's words were a key that unlocked a new business strategy in Stella's mind. She was intrigued. As a thank you, Ruby insisted on taking Ian to dinner. Despite a strange pang of jealousy, Stella had no choice but to call him. At the entrance of the Xiaoyao Pavilion, Ian pulled Ruby's flashy red BMW to a smooth stop. They walked toward the restaurant together, their striking appearance drawing stares. Just then, a cold, surprised voice called out from behind them. Ian Pai. Ian turned to see Jade Chin. She was standing by her car, a look of utter shock on her face, her secretary Helen Huang beside her. The two equally beautiful women locked eyes, and invisible sparks flew. Can I help you? Ian's tone was flat, as if he were speaking to a stranger. Jade's gaze darted between him and Ruby, finally settling into a sharp, mocking sneer. It seems you've gotten quite good at freeloading. It's only been a few days, and you've already latched onto a new meal ticket? Before Ian could respond, Ruby stepped in, her voice dripping with sweetness. Ian, darling, who is this? My ex-wife, Ms. Jade Chin, CEO of the Chin Group. Ian introduced them, his tone polite but distant. Oh, the ex-wife. Ruby feigned surprise. She's very pretty. Why did you leave her? Did you leave me? Jade's face turned ashen. But Ruby just giggled and linked her arm intimately with Ian's. Oh, you mean Stella Sue? She's my best friend. We just came from her office together. The ambiguity was a soft knife that twisted in Jade's heart. Helen Huang scoffed. CEO Chin, kicking him out of the family was absolutely the right decision. It certainly was. Ruby's voice suddenly grew louder. She looked at the pale-faced Jade, like a queen delivering a verdict, declared, Chin, you must have used up lifetimes of luck to meet a man like this, only to throw him away with your own hands. It just proves that you were never worthy of having such an exceptional man in the first place. With that, she ignored Jade's horrified expression, turned to Ian, and purred. Come on, darling. Let me buy you dinner to celebrate your escape from misery. Inside the private room at Xiaoyao Pavilion, the elegant decor whispered of understated luxury. Ruby Zhu pushed a tablet menu in front of Ian, her smile radiant. Order whatever you like. Don't be shy. A server stood by respectfully. Sir, our signature dishes include the dancing dragon and phoenix, the harmonious couple, and the 100 years of happiness. Ian frowned, having no patience for the flowery menu. Do you have stir-fried pork kidney? He asked directly. The server's professional smile froze. He shook his head blankly. Ian looked disappointed. You know, you really should. I'm sorry, sir, but we really don't. The server began to sweat. Ruby immediately came to Ian's defense. If you don't have it, you should get it. A big restaurant like this can't even make such a simple dish. She was in high spirits and ready to back Ian on anything. Under pressure, a senior waiter quickly intervened and promised to make it happen. Now interested, Ian rattled off a series of other hearty, unpretentious dishes completely at odds with the restaurant's vibe. Spicy soft-shell turtle, duck in blood sauce, and braised pig's trotters. The staff could only grimly take down the order. All right, tell me, why did you invite me to dinner? Ian asked once they were alone. You know why? Ruby gave him a sultry look. It's because of your dragon's vigor pill. It worked. Feeling good. Ian grinned. Ruby burst out laughing. Ethan probably still hasn't gotten out of bed, she said, lowering her voice conspiratorially. By the way, this isn't just a short-term effect, is it? Of course not, Ian said proudly. But don't give him another one today. If he takes them 2 days in a row, you'll be the one who can't get out of bed tomorrow. I knew it, Ruby exclaimed. But Stella just wouldn't believe it. That silly woman, treating a treasure like this is trash. So much for her being a business genius. Just then, her phone rang. She put a finger to her lips, and her voice instantly became syrupy sweet. Hello, darling. Are you awake? Ethan Peng's voice came through, tired but unmistakably thrilled. Awake, but my back is a little sore. Some friends were insisting we go out for dinner, so I had to get up. He asked where she was, and upon hearing she was with the miracle doctor, he immediately said he was coming over to thank him in person. After hanging up, Ruby looked at Ian expectantly. Ethan's coming over. He said some of his friends want the dragon's vigor pill too. So, I'm out, Ian said, holding up his empty hands. There were only 3. You have them all. If you want more, I'll have to make a new batch. Just then, a man's voice, followed by Jade Chin's reply, drifted from the adjacent room. Miss Chin, a few friends in the medicinal herb business will be here soon. You'll need to be proactive, have a few drinks with them. Ian's brow furrowed for a fraction of a second before smoothing out. That was all in the past. In the next room, the atmosphere was completely different. Leon, who was in the midst of a gentle but calculated charm offensive on Jade. Jade, to be honest, I was captivated the moment I first saw you, he said, his gaze deep and sincere. If we become family, then the Hu family's golden formulas will naturally be yours too. The Chin group would soar. His words were a bombshell that sent shockwaves through Jade. Fame, status, revenge. All her dreams seemed within reach. But after a moment of excitement, her reason took over, and she politely declined, saying they needed more time to get to know each other. Leon wasn't fazed. He simply became more charming, declaring that he would never use his family's formulas as leverage. I've already decided to partner with the Chin group to develop the free and easy pill from our collection, he announced. As for the shares, I'll take 30%, you take 70%. Jade and Helen Huang were stunned. It was an offer too good to be true. To them, Leon, who was not only debonair, but also incredibly noble, the perfect man. Just as Jade was stammering her thanks, the door opened, and Ethan Peng walked in with his friends. After some pleasantries, Ethan excused himself. Gentlemen, my wife is also having dinner here. I'm just going to pop over and say hello. At their insistence, he agreed to try and invite his wife and her guest to join them. He pushed open the door to the next room and saw Ian, happily devouring a pig's trotter. He rushed over and grabbed Ian's hand, his voice filled with the gratitude of a man given a second chance at life. Miracle Dr. Pai, thank you so much for the dragon's vigor pill. You've made me a man again. Ian just grunted in response, his mouth full. When Ethan anxiously asked about follow-up treatment, Ian told him, after you finish those 3 pills, you'll never need another one. You'll be as vigorous as you were last night, every night. Ethan was so overjoyed, he nearly fell to his knees. He returned to his room, telling the others that his wife's party was private. As they prepared to eat, an old business acquaintance of Ethan's remarked, Ethan, what's gotten into you? You're famous for not touching a drop of alcohol. Everyone then noticed that Ethan's glass was full. He raised it, a complex smile on his face. I'm happy today. I'm making an exception. Another man asked, you've been grinning all evening. What's the good news? Ethan looked around the room. his gaze landing on the man who had asked, Mr. Son, you know what my biggest problem has always been? What else besides that being solved could possibly make me happy enough to break my rule? His words fell into a sudden, dead silence. Mr. Son and a few others who were in on the secret froze, their chopsticks clattering to the table, their eyes wide with utter shock and disbelief. Mr. Son, his face trembling with excitement, leaned towards a bewildered Leon who and smirked. Mr. Who, your family is in the medicine business. You of all people should know what a man's greatest affliction is. Understanding dawned on Leon's face. He turned to Ethan Peng with an air of superiority. Mr. Peng, you should have said something sooner. The free and easy pill from my family's golden formulas is specifically for that. But Ethan just smiled calmly. Thank you for your concern, Mr. Who, but I've already found the right medicine for my condition. 2 more doses, and I'll be completely cured. His tone was serene, but it left Leon feeling strangely embarrassed. The legendary formulas he was so proud of seemed utterly insignificant. What medicine is so miraculous? Mr. Son asked eagerly. When Ethan said the words, Dragon's Vigor Pill, Jade Chen's body tensed almost imperceptibly. A memory she had deliberately buried resurfaced. A year ago, the man she considered a worthless loser had held out a small, black pill, insisting it was the Dragon's Vigor Pill, and that it would make their company a success. At the time, she had thought it was laughable. Could it really be him? Jade shook her head. Impossible. If he had such a revolutionary formula, why would he have been reduced to telling fortunes under a bridge? As the others debated the pill's authenticity, Ethan's next words electrified the room. The miracle doctor who gave me the Dragon's Vigor Pill is in the room next door. My wife is treating him to dinner right now. The other businessmen couldn't sit still. They grabbed their glasses and urged Ethan to introduce them to this miracle doctor. Leon and Jade's faces turned sour. Their important business dinner had been completely derailed. Leon couldn't help but sneer. Gentlemen, there are many charlatans out there. Don't be fooled by some so-called miracle doctor. Who is this doctor? Jade asked. His name is Ian Pai. Ian Pai. Jade and Helen Huang gasped in unison. Helen made no attempt to hide her disdain. He's no miracle doctor. He's just a street corner scam artist who tricks old people. He's my ex-husband, Jade said, her voice dripping with contempt. But her explanation only raised more questions. Would Stella Su, the most beautiful CEO in Xinjiang, marry a scam artist? It didn't make sense. Finally, one of the businessmen, Mr. Yu, decided to see for himself. When Ethan led the group into the next room, they found Ian, full and satisfied, casually picking his teeth. He looked nothing like the miracle doctor they had imagined. Ian Pai, you're quite the talker. If you're a miracle doctor, then who's a quack? Helen's mockery was sharp. How dare you disrespect my family's medical legacy? Leon added, seeing his chance to attack. Faced with their accusations, Ian just smiled and looked at Mr. Yu. Mr. Yu, your problem started exactly 5 years ago, didn't it? At first, you just lacked stamina, but within a month, it became a matter of luck. You've tried countless medicines, but it only got worse, until 6 months ago, when you lost all function as a man. Am I right? His words were as precise as a surgeon's scalpel, dissecting Mr. Yu's entire medical history. Mr. Yu's shock quickly turned to elation. He had found the right person. Ian Pai, your talent for guessing has certainly improved. Jade's voice was laced with jealousy. Has it? Ruby Zhu purred, walking up to Leon. Mr. Who, why don't you give it a try? Leon was speechless, his face turning a deep shade of crimson. Mr. You didn't hesitate. Miracle Dr. Pai, please, sell me the Dragon's Vigor Pill. I'll pay any price. I'm out. I gave all 3 to Ethan, Ian said with a shrug. Humph, just playing hard to get, trying to drive up the price, Helen sneered. Name your price, Dr. Pai. Mr. You pleaded. The medicine I give you will be free of charge, Ian said. His words were a stinging slap across Helen's face. He then turned to 2 other businessmen who were clearly in need. If you want to buy them, it's 200,000 per pill. 200,000. Jade and Leon's eyes widened. He was insane. But what happened next was even crazier. The 3 businessmen transferred the money on the spot without a second thought, each pre-ordering 3 pills. 1.8 million in cash flow, completed in just a few minutes. Dr. Pai, if this medicine is as effective as you say, I could market it for you. Mr. Son, seeing the immense business opportunity, exclaimed. Ruby immediately staked her claim. In your dreams. If anyone is going to distribute this, it'll be my Ethan. I'm best friends with the miracle doctor's wife, you know. A fierce battle for the distribution rights to the Dragon's Vigor Pill had just begun. And on the sidelines, completely ignored, Jade and Leon's faces were dark with humiliation. Their pride, their status, and their so-called golden formulas were utterly powerless in the face of Ian's little black pills. Outside the Xiaoyao pavilion, the night grew darker, but the fire in Jade Chen's heart burned hotter than the day. The public humiliation she had suffered at Ian's hands gnawed at her. Yet Leon, who was whispering in her ear, Jade, don't be fooled by him. That Dragon's Vigor pill is just a cheap trick. The free and easy pill from my family's golden formulas is the real deal. His words only strengthened her resolve. She would use the free and easy pill to crush Ian and his ridiculous drug. They didn't leave immediately, as if waiting for something. When Ian and Ruby Zhu walked out of the restaurant, Jade blocked his path again, her words a clear warning. But Ian couldn't be bothered. As he passed Leon, he shot him a playful look. Mister, who, since your family's formulas are so amazing, why haven't you cured your own little problem? Leon's face changed, a flash of horror in his eyes. What are you talking about? What problem? He blustered. Ian just smiled, a knowing, mischievous glint in his eye. Being worked up for more than 10 hours a day. That's not virility, my friend. That's a medical condition. With that, he hopped into Ruby's BMW, and they sped off, leaving Leon standing there, his face a pale, sickly green, instinctively squeezing his legs together. Jade and Helen Huang just stared at each other, their minds reeling with suspicion. Back at the company, Ian walked into the CEO's office, humming a tune. Seeing his cheerful mood, Stella couldn't help but tease him. Well, someone enjoyed their drinks. Ian froze, subconsciously covering the pocket that now held 1.8 million. He looked at Stella and noticed that she seemed to be in a good mood too, a small, suppressed smile on her lips. Good news? He asked. Yes, I've got it, she replied happily. What? Ian was struck by lightning, stumbling back a few steps in horror. No way. You've got it. Let me tell you, I'm not taking the fall for this. I'm a doctor. I know for a fact that you can't get pregnant from holding hands. You idiot. Stella's sunny expression instantly clouded over. She shot to her feet. Who said I was pregnant? I meant, the company has the funds. The first 300 million from the Soaring Dragon Commerce Guild has arrived. Ian let out a long sigh of relief. You scared me. I thought I was about to become an unsuspecting father. Just as Stella was about to explode, Samuel Su walked in. The old man was in high spirits. Not only did he announce the arrival of the funds, but he also proposed a bold plan, to host a grand party to announce to all of Xinjiang that the Su family was back in business. Stella was worried. Under the Yi family's pressure, she feared no one would show up, and the party would just become another public embarrassment. As the two of them pondered, Ian, who had been silent, spoke up. If you're going to do it, just do it. So what if no one else comes? President Meng will be there, won't he? With him present, who wouldn't come? As for all the fence-sitters, who cares about them? His words were a wake-up call for Samuel. He clapped Ian on the shoulder appreciatively and immediately put Stella in charge of the party. After he left, Stella looked at Ian, her expression complex. This man always seemed to have a surprising insight at the most critical moments. 3 days later, the invitations had been sent, but the responses were few and far between. Stella was once again consumed with worry. To make matters worse, the Qin Group and the Hu family had officially announced their partnership to develop a new drug called the Free and Easy Pill, targeting the men's health market. It was a direct and potentially fatal threat to the nascent Su pharmaceutical company. Maybe we should try his Dragon's Vigor pill, Zheng Li suggested quietly. For the first time, Stella's business instincts made her reconsider the snake oil pill. She even began to wonder if Ian had stolen the formula from the Hu family in the first place. What are you talking about, Granny Zheng? How can the Hu family's pill compare to mine? Ian's voice drifted from the sofa. He didn't look up from his game, but it was as if he could read their minds. The Hu family's formulas are just fragments of ancient medical texts. Their pill has serious side effects. Long-term use will only make a man completely useless. Just as Stella and Zheng Li were reeling from this revelation, there was a knock on the door, and a radiant Ruby Zhu walked in, followed by Ethan Peng. Mr. Son, Mr. You, and 2 other men. CEO Su, long time no see. Ethan's voice was strong and resonant, a world away from his previous listlessness. Mr. Peng. Mr. Son, what brings you all here? Stella asked, surprised. Oh, darling, you haven't heard? Ruby said excitedly, linking her arm with Stella's. They're all here to see your miracle doctor and buy his Dragon's Vigor pills. The Dragon's Vigor pill. Is it really that good? Stella felt her entire perception of reality shifting. It's really that good. Mister, you said, looking at Ian expectantly. I came today to ask Dr. Pai if the pills he promised me are ready. At that, Ian slowly reached under the coffee table, pulled out a crumpled plastic bag, and casually tossed a handful of small, black pills onto the table, looking for all the world like a street vendor. They're all here. 3 per person, 1 per month. Don't take more than that. If you do and your kidneys explode, don't come crying to me. Stella and Zheng Li were utterly dumbfounded. The lavish CEO's office had been transformed into a marketplace, and the small, black pills were the hottest commodity. These respectable, high-powered businessmen, Mr. Son, and the others, were scrambling for them like a pack of wolves, their excitement so palpable you'd think Ian had just handed out winning lottery tickets. This Dragon's Vigor pill, it can't really be that powerful, can it? Stella murmured, feeling her worldview crumble. Ruby giggled and whispered in her ear. Darling, you should have him take one tonight. I guarantee you won't be able to get out of bed tomorrow. Stella's face flushed crimson. But Ruby added, oh right, your miracle doctor is already amazing. He doesn't need it. That last comment struck a sensitive nerve. Stella shot a strange look at Ian, while Zheng Li's suspicious gaze darted between Ruby and Ian. Had he really hooked up with Ruby? Poor Ethan Peng must be completely clueless. Unaware of the suspicion, Ian, who was feeling quite pleased with himself, suddenly felt a chill run down his spine. After the satisfied customers and the still giddy Ruby had left, the office was finally quiet. Just as Ian was about to settle back onto the sofa with his game, Stella silently sat down next to him. A cold aura emanated from her, and before he could react, her fingers had found the soft flesh at his waist and twisted. Tell me, how does Ruby know you're amazing? Stella's voice was a low hiss. She was just guessing, right? Ian yelped in pain. Guessing? Stella's eyes were like daggers. You didn't do anything with her? I'm being framed. Ian cried, his face a mask of innocence. Well, she's bigger than you in one place, but everywhere else, you're better. If I was going to do anything, it would be with you. Ow. The sharp pain at his waist cut him off mid-sentence. Humph, men are all the same, Zheng Li added from the side. Seeing his pathetic, pained expression, Stella suddenly burst out laughing. She let go and, to his surprise, her voice softened. Let's make a deal. No deal, Ian said, instantly on guard. I want 9% of the shares. Stella's face darkened again, but this time, she didn't argue. After consulting with Samuel Su and getting his approval, a contract for the rights to the Dragon's Vigor Pill formula was drawn up. Ian signed it without even reading it. With that major issue resolved, Stella was in a great mood. She invited Ian to eat with her in the company cafeteria for the first time, and that afternoon, she even suggested they visit her brother, Matthew, together. At the Su family home, Matthew was unusually affectionate with Ian, greeting him with a cheerful brother-in-law that left Stella and her mother, Evelyn, stunned. Her own brother preferred him over her. The look Evelyn gave Ian was filled with a new level of warmth and appreciation. The next day, Zheng Li rushed into the office, her face anxious. CEO Su, you have to see the Xinjiang Business Forum. News of the Su family's party had been leaked and was now the top trending topic. The comments were overwhelmingly negative. Some predicted that under the Yi family's pressure, the 500 million was just a temporary fix before their inevitable collapse. Others mocked them for having no viable products. Many more praised the Qin Group's partnership with the Hu family, predicting that Jade Qin would soon surpass Stella as the new queen of Xinjiang's business world. Worst of all, someone had started a betting pool on how many people would actually attend the Su family's party. The humiliating odds and the flood of people placing bets against them were like knives in Stella's heart. Her face was grim. Ignore it, she said, taking a deep breath. No matter what happens tomorrow, the party will proceed as planned. Meanwhile, in the security office, Ian was staring at the same forum on his phone. He read the negative posts and looked at the humiliating betting pool, and a strange, unreadable, and highly amused smile spread across his face. In the security office, Mr. Gua, Liu Lu, and Henry He watched as Ian chuckled at the humiliating betting pool on his phone. They couldn't understand what was so funny. Mr. Gua, here's a chance to get rich. Want to try? Ian said mysteriously, handing the phone to him. That 30,000 of yours could become 300,000 by tomorrow. Mr. Gua took the phone, and his face fell. Mr. Pai, please don't joke with me. This isn't turning 30,000 into 300,000. This is throwing my 30,000 away. To win that bet, more than 100 prominent figures would have to attend the Su family's party, with the Yi family actively suppressing them. That was simply impossible. But Ian was certain. Who says? I'm telling you, not only will people show up tomorrow, there will definitely be more than 100. As the others stared at him like he was a lunatic, Ian placed a $1 million bet on the 10-to-1 odds. Then, he turned his persuasive powers on Mr. Gua. I'm a skilled diviner, even better than I am a doctor. Let me tell you your fortune. When you were 15, didn't you and some friends go swimming in the river and you nearly drowned? Mr. Gua's eyes went wide. Not even his wife knew about that. Finally, swayed by Ian's ultimate argument. I've already bet $1 million. What are you afraid of? Mr. Gua gritted his teeth and bet his entire life savings of 30,000. Meanwhile, in an upscale cafe, Ava Yu was looking at the record of a $1 million bet on her phone, laughing hysterically. I just saw some idiot bet $1 million on the 10-to-1 odds. He must be out of his mind. She despised Ian for costing her $10 million and publicly humiliating her. This betting pool was the centerpiece of the public shaming she had planned for him and the Su family. On the day of the party, the entrance to the Azure Garden estate was desolate. Across the street, in the Wanlong Hotel, Julian Yi, Forrest Hua, and others were watching through binoculars, savoring the spectacle. When the Su family arrived, most of them entered the estate with anxious hearts, leaving only Ian, Zheng Li, and Matthew at the entrance. Matthew was happily running around a large stone lion. Ian looked at the hotel across the street, a strange smile on his face. He told Zhengli that the hotel had bad feng shui and was destined for bankruptcy. His mystic pronouncements earned him a sharp retort. As they bickered, Ian's phone rang. It was Titus Lay, Ninth Master, he said respectfully. As you commanded, they are on their way and will arrive on time. After hanging up, Ian's expression grew thoughtful. At that moment, a sinister plot was approaching. Vinny Wan, the boyfriend of Ava Ye's best friend, was heading their way with Kevin Sheen and a few other rich kids, their eyes fixed on the seemingly simple-minded Matthew. Hey, little buddy, want some soda? Vinny Wan said, holding out a half-empty bottle. From a distance, Ian watched coldly. He had just seen them mix dirt into the drink and then each spit in it. Matthew, who was thirsty, instinctively reached for it. Just as his fingers were about to close around the bottle, Ian's voice drifted over. Matthew, he said you should give it to him to drink. Oh, Matthew, as if given a command, took the soda without hesitation, clamped an arm around Vinny Wan's neck, and with his other hand, violently jammed the bottle of special soda into Vinny's mouth. Vinny Wan's Adam's apple bobbed violently, the sound of his frantic gulping echoing in the dead silence. The entire half bottle of soda, mixed with dirt and spittle, was chugged down to the last drop. Kevin Sheen and his friends were frozen in place. Under the scorching June sun, a chill ran up their spines. Was this something a simpleton was capable of doing? Vinny, weakened by a lifestyle of excess, was completely overpowered by Matthew's brute, simple-minded strength. When Matthew finally let go, he even patted the bottom of the empty bottle and asked with a naive grin. Hee, was it good? You drank it all up. Before he could finish, Vinny stumbled to a flower bed, clutching his throat and letting out a series of earth-shattering retches. The gritty, foul liquid felt like it was seeping into his very organs, a humiliation that drove him mad. He clawed at his throat, desperate to vomit, but nothing came up. Brother-in-law, what's he doing? Did he not like the soda? Matthew asked, scratching his head in confusion. Ian just chuckled. No, he loved it so much he got excited. Kevin, listening to this exchange, trembled with rage. He pointed at Ian, about to scream, but the memory of his last beating made him swallow his words. Just then, a sharp female voice cracked like a whip. What do you think you're doing? Zhengli had returned just in time to see one of the young men squaring up to Ian. Without thinking, she spread her arms like a mother hen, shielding Ian and Matthew, her eyes blazing. In that moment, she seemed to forget that the man behind her needed no protection. Well, look at this tough lady, one of the young men sneered, his eyes roaming over her body. Hey, Granny Zheng, is your stomachache gone? Ian's ill-timed question came from behind her. Zhengli gritted her teeth, but as she turned to glare at him, a warm hand grasped her left one. She stiffened, but then a strange warmth flowed from the higu point in her hand, spreading through her body. The cramping in her abdomen miraculously subsided, replaced by a soothing comfort that almost made her moan. By the time she came to her senses, her cheeks were flushed. Seeing this, the young men grew even bolder, one of them even pulling out a switchblade. Zheng Li's heart leaped into her throat. But Ian let go of her hand, his voice calm but firm. Go watch Matthew. I'll take care of these pests. He then looked up and called out lazily toward the street. Hey, kitty cat. The moment the words were out, a burly, menacing figure came running over with a few colorfully haired thugs in tow. It was Panther. Without a word, Panther kicked the knife-wielding youth to the ground and, with the skill of a seasoned detective, quickly got the whole story. When he heard that it was Kevin Sheen's idea to spit in the soda to prank a disabled man, only to be outsmarted, Panther almost burst out laughing. You guys are the real idiots. You got what you deserved, and now you want revenge. He spat in disgust. Seeing a large dumpster nearby, he understood Ian's unspoken command and waved a hand. Throw that piece of trash in the dumpster. Kevin was terrified, pleading with Ian, brother-in-law. Brother-in-law, help me. He's not your brother-in-law, he's my brother-in-law. Matthew said, protectively hugging Ian's arm. Ian's face was impassive. With no reason to hesitate, Panther's men dragged the screaming Kevin over and unceremoniously dumped him into the dumpster, to the roaring laughter of the onlookers. Vinny Wan watched, pale-faced, the sounds of camera shutters and whispers from the crowd amplifying his humiliation. He couldn't get Ian, but he could certainly get Kevin. He snarled at his friends. Get that piece of trash. And so, Kevin, having just climbed out of the dumpster, was set upon by his former brothers, beaten black and blue, and thrown back into the foul-smelling metal box. At the height of this chaotic scene, a cold, mocking voice cut through the air. Well, Ian Pye, aren't you impressive? Ava Yi had arrived, dressed in a stunning outfit. She walked over with her entourage, the clicking of her heels a commanding rhythm. Her arrival immediately made her the center of attention. But when Ian saw her, he instinctively took 2 steps back and theatrically fanned the air in front of his nose. The deeply insulting gesture made Ava's face turn to stone. Do you really think today's party won't become the laughingstock of Xinjiang? She said, her voice dripping with scorn as she gestured at the empty estate entrance. Look at the time. Has a single guest arrived? This is the price you pay for offending the Yi family. Just then, 2 luxury cars pulled up, and Mason Meng and his associates walked quickly into the estate, giving Ian only a brief nod. Ava sneered. Is that all? Ian just smiled mysteriously. I'm afraid you're going to be very disappointed, Miss Yi. Just a bluff. Brandon Hua appeared from nowhere with a group of other young elites, joining the chorus of mockery. This party is doomed to fail. Ian offered no argument, simply standing there with an expression as calm and deep as still water. He knew that words were useless now. Only a thunderous display of facts could shatter the arrogance and prejudice of the people before him. Zheng Li's heart, however, was a tangled mess. The minutes ticked by, and the entrance to the estate remained empty, save for a crowd of onlookers. Among them, several young influencers had set up their phones, their screens undoubtedly scrolling with mocking comments about the Su family. She looked anxiously at Ian. The man seemed constitutionally incapable of feeling rushed. His serene demeanor was both infuriating and, she had to admit, strangely reassuring. Brandon, Ian said suddenly, his tone playful, you seem quite concerned about the Su family's party. A lot of people are concerned today, Brandon retorted smugly, but I doubt many will actually be attending. You must still be smarting from losing that 10 million, Ian said, his eyes glinting like a devil tempting a soul. I know a way you can win it back. If you listen to me, you might just get that money back. He opened his phone to the betting page. See? Bet $1 million, and you'll win back 10. Ava Yi and Brandon leaned in for a look, their expressions turning strange. Ava was stunned. This was the betting pool she had created. How had he found out? Did you place a bet? She asked suspiciously. Of course, Ian said as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. How could I miss such a great opportunity to get rich? I bet $1 million on the 10-1 odds. The house will have to pay me 10 million, right? Brandon burst into an exaggerated fit of laughter. Ian Pai, are you insane? Do you really think more than 100 people are coming to this party today? Absolutely, Ian replied, his voice firm. Fine, I'll play along. Brandon, his pride stoked, took out his phone and bet $1 million on the 2-1 odds. As the agonizing minutes passed, the smug looks on Ava and Brandon's faces grew more pronounced, and the whispers of the crowd were like a dull knife sawing at Zheng Li's nerves. Ian Pai, are you still waiting for a miracle? Ava's voice was filled with contempt and pity. As soon as the words left her mouth, several black luxury cars pulled up smoothly to the entrance. The doors opened, and a group of distinguished-looking men emerged, led by a vigorous, commanding old man. It's the Gu family. That's the patriarch, Jonah Gu. A cry of shock went up from the crowd. The second most powerful family in Xinjiang, the Gu family, had arrived in full force. Jonah Gu, who was rumored to be on his deathbed, looked energetic and walked with a powerful stride. This sudden development was like a boulder dropped into a calm lake, making jaws drop all around. For the first time, Ava Ye's expression soured. In the hotel room across the street, Julian Ye's face was equally grim. It seems the Gu family is determined to oppose us. Shortly after the Gu family went inside, a massive convoy of 10 luxury cars arrived like a black dragon. 8 men in black suits jogged into position and respectfully opened the door of the lead Mercedes. An old man in a white traditional suit and a fedora, leaning on a walking stick, slowly emerged. His very presence seemed to create a powerful, invisible field that silenced the crowd. It's Mr. Kai, the legendary Mr. Kai, who's been in seclusion for years. An even greater commotion erupted. This was the true kingpin of Xinjiang, Mr. Kai. Behind him were the heads of a dozen other influential families. Together, they held enough power to shake the entire city. Mr. Kai's sharp gaze swept the area before landing on Ian. He was about to approach, but Ian gave a subtle shake of his head, gesturing for him to go inside. Mr. Kai understood, smiled, and led his procession into the estate. Ava's face was now dark enough to drip water. Ian's teasing voice reached her again. Is that all, Miss Yi? Even with them, it's not even 50 people. Ava said, clinging to her last shred of dignity. You're right, Ian chuckled. But this miracle worker can summon an army. Just watch. As he spoke, everyone froze, their eyes fixed on the end of the street. A seemingly endless convoy of cars was speeding towards them, quickly filling every available space. Doors opened, and 100 impeccably dressed, powerful-looking business elites emerged. The license plates revealed they were all from the provincial capital. Excuse me, is this the Su family's party? The leader of the group asked the dumbfounded Zheng Li. Yes, it is, she stammered, her voice trembling with excitement. Excellent. We came all the way from the capital specifically to attend. Ava Yi, Brandon Hua, and Vinny Wan were completely stunned. In the hotel room, Julian Yi slammed his binoculars down, shattering them to pieces. You know, when a man's luck turns, there's nothing that can stop it, Ian said, pulling out his phone and opening the betting app. This bookie is really unlucky. All the other bets combined aren't enough to cover my winnings. I wonder which great philanthropist set this up. Miss Yi, it wasn't you, was it? Ava's face turned green. So what if it was? She hissed through gritted teeth. Oh, well, thank you, Miss Yi, Ian said, contentedly putting his phone away. He called to Matthew. Come on, Matthew, let's go get some soda. The kind without dirt and spit in it. Vinnie Wan's stomach churned at the words. Ava watched Ian walk away, trembling with rage. And Vinnie, consumed by his humiliation, turned his hateful gaze on Panther, who was standing nearby. Ian was gone, but he would make this street punk pay in blood. At the entrance to the Azure Garden estate, the air was thick and heavy. A score of security guards armed with rubber batons circled Panther and his few men like a pack of hungry wolves. Their burly captain waited only for the word from Vinnie Wan. Panther's heart sank. He knew this was likely the end for him, but he gritted his teeth and stood tall. He was Panther, a name that meant something on the streets of Xinjiang. If he was going down, he was going down standing. Get them. Break their arms and legs. Vinnie's voice was shrill and venomous. The guards raised their batons, ready to bring them down with crushing force. In that split second, a thunderous roar cut through the tension. Stop! Two black shadows shot into the crowd like tigers. With two dull thuds, the two lead guards were sent flying like broken kites. The sheer force of the entrance stunned the other guards into taking an involuntary step back. My name is Along, personal guard to Mr. Kai. My name is Ahu. The two mountain-like men announced themselves, their voices like rumbling thunder. Vinnie's heart plummeted. The golden fighters of Mr. Kai were known to everyone in Xinjiang. Their presence meant that Mr. Kai himself was protecting these thugs. This is between him and me. Why is Mr. Kai getting involved? Vinnie demanded, his voice betraying his fear. Does Mr. Kai need to explain himself to you? A playful voice drifted over. Ian had returned, a smile on his face. Along was blunt. Mr. Kai is protecting this man. Get lost. Vinnie's face flushed with anger and shame. To provoke Mr. Kai was to invite disaster. He shot a hateful glare at Ian. Humph, Ian Pye, I'll remember this. Ian just waved a hand dismissively. Yes, please do. Many people remember me. You'll be in good company. Vinnie nearly choked on his rage. He could only retreat with his guards back to the hotel. Panther, having escaped certain doom, was overcome with a mixture of shock and joy. He had never dreamed that he would be brought under the protection of the legendary Mr. Kai in such a fashion. With Ian's tacit approval, he officially became one of Mr. Kai's men, and in turn, Ian's most loyal kitty cat. The party itself was a roaring success. Mason Ming, Ethan Peng, and others gathered around Ian, singing his praises. Samuel Su was surrounded by business magnates from the provincial capital, including a representative from the third most powerful family in the province, the Bai family. The event had far exceeded the wildest expectations of anyone in the Su family. On the way home, Samuel Su broke with tradition and had Ian ride with him in his Maybach. Inside the quiet, luxurious car, the city lights blurred past the thick windows. Were the people who came to the party today you're doing? Samuel finally asked, his voice calm but perceptive. Yes, Ian answered honestly. The people from the capital, you called them too? Ian smiled. That's right. I had old man Lay ask them to come. Samuel let out a long breath, a bright, unprecedented light shining in his old eyes. He looked at Ian as if he were an uncarved gem, his admiration overflowing. Ian, he said, his tone heavy with meaning. You and Stella should set a date for a proper wedding banquet. A granddaughter of the Su family can't just get married without a celebration. What? Ian was so shocked he nearly jumped out of the leather seat. But the old man continued as if he hadn't noticed. The future of the Su family rests on you and Stella. And if you could give me a great-grandchild soon, that would make me even happier. Ian was completely bewildered. What was this old man playing at? Meanwhile, in the CEO's office of the Qin Group, Jade Qin and Leon who officially signed their partnership agreement for the free and easy pill. Looking at the generous 70-30 split in her favor, Jade's eyes burned with a thirst for revenge. She would show Stella that she was her equal, and she would show Ian that he was the one who wasn't good enough for her. Jade Qin and Leon who officially signed their partnership agreement for the free and easy pill. Later that night, when Ian returned to the villa, he was met by two pairs of scrutinizing eyes. Stella and Zheng Li were sitting on the sofa like two judges waiting for a trial to begin. What did my grandfather say to you? Stella asked, getting straight to the point. Oh, nothing much, Ian said, trying to act casual. Just that we should have a wedding banquet. Stella froze, her eyes flickering as she unconsciously shifted closer to him. Is that all he said? Oh, right, Ian added thoughtfully. He also said we should have a baby soon. What? Stella's face flushed a deep crimson. Nonsense. Before he could react, her hand had already found its familiar target on his side. Ow, Ian yelped. The old man really said that, but I didn't agree. You didn't agree? Why not? Stella asked before she could stop herself. If we had a baby, you'd be stuck with me. What would I do then? Ian asked with an innocent face. Ow, another yelp as the pressure on his side increased. Stuck with you? In your dreams. Stella fumed. Ian rubbed his side, looking at her with a hurt expression. He then frowned. Well, if you want to have one, we could try tonight. Ian Pot. Stella shrieked like a cat whose tail had been stepped on and lunged at him. Downstairs, Zhongli let out a chuckle, but the sound quickly turned into a pained grunt. Her smile froze, her brow furrowed, and her face visibly paled. Stella's playful attack stopped instantly. She turned in surprise to see Zhongli swaying on her feet. Zhongli. Stella rushed to support her. Is it that time again? Zhongli nodded weakly, a cold sweat breaking out on her forehead. She curled up on the sofa, her voice trembling. It's fine. It's an old problem. I just have to bear it. Why is it so bad this time? Stella asked anxiously, feeling helpless. Ian, who had been about to go upstairs, stopped. He looked at Zhongli, who was now writhing in pain, and walked back down. Granny Zhong, this isn't just cramps. It's a uterine spasm, he said, his tone casual but professional. Your cervical canal is narrow, which obstructs blood flow and causes the spasms. Through her pain, Zhongli managed to confirm his diagnosis. He's right. That's what the hospital said. Stella stared at Ian, surprised. I didn't know you knew about women's health issues. Since you know what it is, can you treat it? Her words were tinged with an acidity she herself didn't recognize. Of course I can. Otherwise, why would they call me a miracle doctor? Ian said, turning to leave. I'll get my needles from the car. He returned a moment later with his needle pouch, skillfully selecting a golden needle. Take her clothes off so I can insert the needles, he said to Stella. Stella instinctively moved to do so, then stopped, her eyes turning cold as ice. What did you say? Take off her outer shirt. Expose her abdomen. Ian explained quickly, unnerved by her glare. CEO Su. Please, just let him do it. I can't take the pain. Zhongli pleaded, clutching Stella's arm. Stella finally gritted her teeth and unbuttoned Zhongli's blouse, revealing a smooth, toned abdomen. Ian swallowed, his eyes fixed on the patch of white skin. A little higher. Stella shot him a death glare but complied, undoing another button and revealing a hint of pink lace. As she was about to explode, Ian spoke again, hesitantly. The pants have to come down a little too. There are 2 acupoints about 4 inches below the navel. I can't reach them otherwise. Just as Stella's patience reached its limit, Ian's demeanor changed completely. His eyes focused, and he became a picture of solemn professionalism. 3 golden needles seemed to come alive in his fingers, moving like lightning to precisely pierce the Qi and Zgong acupoints on Zhongli's abdomen. He flicked the ends of the needles, and they hummed, a faint golden aura swirling around their tips. 15 minutes, and we're done, he said, his usual lazy attitude returning. That's it? Stella asked, incredulous. Before she could finish, Zhongli let out a long sigh, her tense body relaxing. CEO Su, I feel much better. The pain is almost gone. Her voice was weak but filled with surprised relief. 15 minutes later, Ian removed the needles. Zhongli was completely fine. She sat up and looked at Ian with a new, genuine gratitude. Thank you. Ian seemed unaccustomed to her sincerity. Don't mention it. Just try not to be so fierce all the time. It gives women wrinkles, makes you age faster. Am I fierce? Zhongli suddenly smiled, and for a moment, Ian was captivated by her charm. The next day, the atmosphere in the car was strange. Zhongli was silent, her mind replaying the previous night's events, the feeling of his hand on her stomach, the strange warmth, the electric shock. She tried to shake the thoughts away, but found herself sneaking glances at him in the rearview mirror. That evening, after dropping them off, Ian drove to the familiar street food stall. Mr. Gua, having won 300,000, was treating him to a celebratory dinner. The stall was bustling with the smell of grilled meat and beer. The security guards surrounded Ian, showering him with praise and lamenting their own failure to bet alongside him. In the midst of the celebration, a small, timid voice piped up. Mister, would you like to buy a flower? Ian turned to see a small girl of about 8 or 9, her arms full of roses, looking hopefully at a couple at the next table. She was rail-thin, her worn plastic sandals looking like relics from another era. The man at the table rudely shooed her away. The woman wanted to buy one, but had no cash. After a brief, awkward exchange, Ian stood up. He smiled and bought all of the girl's flowers, giving some to the kind woman and saving the rest for his wife. Thank you, mister. The little flower girl's eyes shone with grateful tears. Just as Ian was about to speak, an angry shout came from the corner. Who the hell said you could sell flowers here? A burly man stormed over, snatched the remaining flowers from the little girl's arms, threw them to the ground, and stomped on them. Then, he shoved the frail little girl to the pavement. The raucous energy of the street food stall, a nightly ritual of frying away the day's fatigue, surrounded them. Mr. Gua, flushed with the thrill of his $300,000 win, raised his beer. Around the table, his fellow security guards were praising Ian, their voices a mix of awe and regret for not having followed his lead. Into this boisterous scene, a timid voice entered like a flickering candle. A small, frail girl of about 8 or 9 named Duo was selling roses to pay for her grandmother's surgery. Her earnestness touched the hearts of the rough men at the table. Ian, moved by her story, not only bought all her flowers but invited her to sit and eat. The little girl stared at the sizzling skewers of meat, her hunger obvious, but politely refused, saying she wasn't hungry. Her maturity was heart-wrenching, but the world's cruelty often appears when least expected. A harsh voice cut through the warm moment. Who the hell told you you could sell flowers here? A weaselly-looking man, who called himself Brother Go, stormed over with a few of his cronies. He snatched the remaining flowers from Duo, crushed them under his heel, and then reached out to shove the terrified little girl. Ian's eyes went cold. He moved. No one saw how, but a sharp crack and a piercing scream followed. Brother Go was on the ground, his wrist twisted at an unnatural angle. "You bastard, you dare touch Brother Go," his men shouted, surrounding Ian. Before Ian could even respond, Mr. Gua and the other security guards were on their feet, forming a protective wall around Ian and Duo. Their disciplined, powerful presence immediately intimidated the would-be attackers. "Did I say you could leave?" Ian's icy voice stopped them as they tried to retreat. "You damage something, you pay for it. Even a 3-year-old knows that." He pointed to the ruined flowers, his eyes devoid of warmth. The street corner power play quickly devolved into a farcical shakedown, spurred on by one guard's outrageous claim that the roses were imported and worth $50 each, and threatened by the fists of the others. The once arrogant Brother Go was beaten, humiliated, and forced to transfer $2,000 before fleeing. After the crowd dispersed, Ian gave the money to Duo. Hearing that her grandmother was in critical condition at the central hospital, he softened. "Come on," he said gently. "Take me to see your grandmother. Maybe I can cure her." The central hospital was a sterile, cold place. In the cardiac surgery ward, a nurse stopped them, her eyes as cold as her white uniform. "You're the family for bed 117? You're over 10,000 in arrears. If you don't pay up, we'll have to stop the medication." Duo's face went white, and she began to cry and beg. But the nurse just shook her off, her words like knives. "You'll earn the money? Don't be ridiculous. It looks like your family can't afford the surgery. You should just take her home now and save yourselves the expense." Ian's anger was ignited by her callousness. But before he could act, an alarm light began flashing, and another nurse rushed over. "Bed 117 is crashing. Heart rate is erratic. Blood pressure is spiking. She's lost consciousness." Duo cried out for her grandmother and tried to run to the room. Just then, a group of doctors hurried out of an office. The man in the lead saw Ian, and a look of hatred flashed in his eyes. It was Dr. Dean Lee, the arrogant Dr. Ian had previously humiliated. "Dr. Lee, the patient is critical. We have to intervene now," a voice called from the room. But Dean Lee blocked the doorway. "Wait, bed 117 owes over 10,000. Who's going to pay for this emergency procedure? It's hospital policy. Please, save my grandma." Duo's sobs were heartbreakingly helpless. "Her condition doesn't require surgery," Ian said, holding Duo as he pushed his way into the room. He took one look at the unconscious old woman and stated calmly, "Rheumatic heart disease, aortic stenosis. 3 sessions of acupuncture, supplemented by 3 courses of herbal medicine, and she'll recover." "Acupuncture? Herbal medicine?" Dean Lee laughed as if he'd heard the world's greatest joke. "You're a street corner charlatan, and you dare to spout such nonsense here? Someone call security and drag this lunatic out." Ian ignored him. To the horror of everyone present, he opened his needle pouch. 9 golden needles glinted under the lights. He took one, and, with the speed of a striking snake, inserted it into the Shinmin point on the old woman's wrist. Then, Shanghai Neguan. After 5 needles were in place, he swept his hand over their ends, and an invisible wave of energy rippled through the room. Duo, don't be afraid. Your grandmother is going to be fine," he said softly. "You're insane. If anything happens to this patient, you will be held fully responsible." Dean Lee raged. Just as security arrived to haul Ian away, an authoritative voice came from the doorway. "What is going on here?" The room fell silent. All the doctors stood at attention. "Director." The man who entered was the director of the central hospital, the renowned physician Dr. Lee. He frowned at the scene, but when his eyes fell on Ian, his expression shifted to one of pure, ecstatic shock. He rushed forward and bowed deeply, his voice filled with a respectful disbelief. "Miracle Dr. Pai, what are you doing here?" His words were a thunderclap that stunned everyone in the room. "Dad, what miracle doctor? He's just here to cause trouble," Dean Lee stammered. "You insolent fool." Dr. Lee spun around and slapped his son hard across the face. "Miracle Dr. Pai is a master we couldn't even dream of inviting to this hospital, and you say he's here to cause trouble?" Dean Lee clutched his stinging cheek, his eyes filled with humiliation and disbelief. The freeloader, the pretty boy he despised, was the miracle doctor his father spoke of? It was impossible. "Dad, you must be mistaken," he argued. "I know this man. He's just a loser who got kicked out by his wife." Another sharp slap cracked across his face. Dr. Lee was trembling with rage. "You insolent whelp. If you say one more word of nonsense, you can get out of my hospital for good. The room was utterly silent, everyone stunned by the scene. The director was attacking his own son for the sake of an outsider. But Dr. Lee ignored his dumbfounded son and turned back to Ian, his anger melting away into a humble smile. He pointed to the needles in the patient's body, his tone that of a student seeking guidance. Miracle Dr. Pi, is this the legendary 5 elements heart-protecting needle technique? Yes and no, Ian replied calmly, patiently explaining the subtle modifications he had made to the ancient technique. He spoke like a master instructing a novice, and Dr. Lee, the renowned saint of national medicine, listened with rapt attention. Dad, the specialist team determined that surgery was essential. Dean Lee protested again. Can he really repair the damage with a few needles? If traditional medicine is so effective, what's the point of surgeons like us? Easy, old Lee, Ian said, stopping the director before he could lash out again. The casual address made the other doctor's jaws drop, but Dr. Lee just grinned like a happy child. Trying to explain traditional medicine to them is like playing a harp to a cow, Ian said, his gaze sweeping over the other doctors. They've been raised on the arrogance of Western medicine. A fierce debate erupted. Dean Lee argued his points passionately, but Ian dismantled them one by one, dissecting the flaws in modern medicine from its diagnostic methods to its fundamental principles, even touching upon the influence of corporate capital. Dr. Lee nodded along, as if seeing the light for the first time. Nonsense. Dean, having been refuted at every turn, could only roar in frustration. I refuse to believe that a few needles can actually cure a disease. You don't have to believe. You can see for yourself, Ian said with a calm smile. He swept his left hand over the patient's body, and the 5 golden needles were instantly removed. As he pulled out the last one, he gently pressed the philtrum point below her nose. A soft moan, and the unconscious old woman's eyes slowly fluttered open. Grandma, Duo cried out in joy. The room was deathly silent. Everyone was stunned into silence by the miraculous scene. Dean Lee's face turned a deep, shameful crimson. Just then Dr. Lee's phone rang urgently. His face paled as he listened. Miracle Dr. Pi, I have an emergency, he said. Before ordering the attending physician, discharge the patient in bed 117 immediately. Waive all her outstanding fees. He then rushed out of the room. Ian had just settled matters for Duo and her grandmother when a panting Dr. Lee caught up to him. Miracle Dr. Pi, please, you have to help me. A very important patient just came in critical condition. If anything happens to him, I can't bear the responsibility. Ian followed him to the emergency room. As they approached, they could hear an arrogant voice shouting, if anything happens to my father in your hospital, I'll make sure you all pay. A group of haughty-looking people stood in the hallway, their leader berating a doctor. There are no guarantees in medicine. You're being unreasonable. Ian couldn't help but comment. The group turned, and one of the young men's eyes went wide. You? Who do you think you are, talking to my Wan family like that? Ian was also taken aback. The young man was Vinny Wan. Well, Vinny, your mouth is still as foul as ever, Ian said with a playful smile. It seems you didn't quite finish your soda yesterday, did you? The moment the words left his mouth, Vinny's face went white. He turned and leaned against the wall, letting out a series of violent, dry heaves. Dr. Lee, desperate, tried to explain Ian's identity as a miracle doctor, but Vinny's father, Adrian Wan, just scoffed. Director Lee, I didn't call you here to tell me jokes. This kid is barely old enough to shave, and you're telling me he's a miracle doctor? Backed into a corner, Dr. Lee gritted his teeth and made a solemn vow. If Miracle Dr. Pi cannot revive Mr. Wan, I, Li Fu, will resign as director and never practice medicine again. His words stunned everyone. Ian, moved by this display of faith, no longer hesitated and walked with Dr. Lee into the resuscitation room. Still untrusting, Adrian once sent his brother, Alan, in after them. Outside, Vinny continued to paint a picture of Ian as a worthless, freeloading loser. Adrian was about to storm in and stop the procedure when the door to the room opened. Ian walked out, looking completely relaxed. You can't leave. Adrian blocked his path. What? Do you want me to treat you to a soda? Ian asked, raising an eyebrow. Vinny immediately began to retch again. Just as Adrian was about to turn his fury on Dr. Lee, Alan Wan emerged from the room, his face a mask of utter disbelief. His voice trembled. Brother, Dad, he's awake.